Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever just looked around and wondered how every living thing seems so perfectly designed for its home? I mean, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains, life always seems to find a way. Today, we're going to dig into exactly how these creatures get made to order.
So, to get us started, I've got a question for you. Why on earth would an animal have no eyes? Seems like a pretty huge disadvantage, right? Well, just hold that thought. We're going to find the answer by looking at some absolutely fascinating creatures that are basically custom-built for the worlds they live in.
And here's our answer. Meet the Texas blind salamander. This little guy lives deep inside caves with literally zero light. In that kind of environment, eyes are completely useless. So over time, evolution basically said, yeah, you don't need those anymore. Instead, it developed this amazing sense of touch to feel the tiniest vibrations in the water. It's perfectly adapted.
Now, this is super cool. What you're looking at here are two cousins who took completely different paths. On the left, you've got the Arctic fox, small ears to keep heat in and that thick white fur for warmth and camouflage. But then look at its desert cousin on the right, the fennec fox. It's the total opposite. Huge ears that act like radiators to let heat out, and a thin, sandy-colored coat to stay cool. It's a perfect example of adaptation in action.
Okay, so it's pretty clear that this happens. But how? What's the actual engine that's driving all these incredible changes? Let's get into it. Well, it all starts with a really simple but incredibly powerful idea: variation. Just look around. No two individuals in any species are ever exactly the same. There are always these tiny little differences. And that variation, that's the raw material that nature gets to work with.
The classic story of the peppered moth shows us exactly how this raw material gets shaped into something new. It really comes down to a few key steps. First, you start with variation. Some moths are born with lighter wings, and some are born with darker ones. Then, you add some environmental pressure. In this case, hungry birds who can easily see the dark moths against light-colored trees. So what happens? The lighter moths are more likely to survive, have babies, and pass on those light-wing genes. You let that process run for generations, and pretty soon, the whole population adapts, and light-wing moths become the new normal.
And this quote just nails it. If a trait helps you survive and have more kids, that trait is going to become more common over time. That, right there, in a nutshell, is the core idea of natural selection.
All right, so now that we've got the how down, let's have some fun and look at the what. Nature has developed this incredible survival toolkit filled with all sorts of amazing solutions.
We can pretty much sort all these amazing tools into three main buckets. First, you have structural adaptations. These are the physical parts of an animal, like a bird's beak. Then there are behavioral adaptations, which are the things an animal does to survive, like migrating south for the winter. And finally, you have physiological adaptations. These are the internal body processes, like a snake making venom.
I mean, just take the sloth. It's super slow movement. That's a behavioral adaptation that saves a massive amount of energy. And its camouflaged fur that looks like moss, that's a structural adaptation that makes it almost impossible for predators to see. It's a 2-for-1 survival special.
Then you've got the spider monkey, an absolute acrobat of the treetops. Those long, powerful limbs are a fantastic structural adaptation. They give it the power to swing effortlessly through the canopy to find food and, get away from anything that wants to eat it. And how about this toucan? You might think that giant bill is just for looks, but no way. It's this incredibly specialized tool. It's a structural adaptation that lets the toucan sit on a nice, sturdy branch and reach out to grab fruit from flimsy little twigs that would snap right under its weight. Pretty smart, huh?
Okay, we've seen some pretty amazing adaptations, but now we're going to dial it up to 11. We're going to look at life that pushes the absolute limits, life that adapts to what seems completely impossible.
These organisms have an amazing name, extremophiles, and they are, without a doubt, the champions of survival. They don't just tolerate these crazy environments, they actually thrive in them. The polar bear is basically a walking, breathing Arctic survival kit. It's got a thick layer of fat for insulation, greasy white fur for both camouflage and to stay dry, and these huge feet that act like snowshoes. And of course, it's got the tools of the trade, those sharp teeth and claws for hunting. Every single part is perfectly adapted for the job. So we go from the freezing cold to the scorching heat. The cactus is an absolute master of desert survival. Its entire existence is built around one thing: water. It has widespread roots to suck up every last drop, a big stem that's basically a water tank, a thick waxy skin to keep moisture from evaporating, and sharp spines to protect its precious supply.
And if you think that's impressive, get ready for this. Deep, deep down at the bottom of the ocean, in total darkness and under crushing pressure, there are bacteria that don't need the sun at all. Seriously. They literally eat chemicals pouring out of volcanic vents to create their own energy. It's like life is running on a totally different operating system down there.
So we've seen all these incredible snapshots of adaptation, but what happens when you let that camera run for millions and millions of years? Well, that's when you get the grand, epic story of life on Earth.
And that story is called evolution. This is really the key takeaway here. Evolution isn't some separate, mysterious thing. It is simply the result of all those small adaptations we've been looking at, like the moth's wing color or the fox's ear size, accumulating generation after generation over vast stretches of time, until eventually entirely new species are formed.
And it is so important to remember, this isn't just a history lesson. This process didn't stop with the dinosaurs. It's happening all around us all the time. Life is constantly changing, constantly adapting. It's a truly never-ending story.
Which leaves us with a really fascinating question to think about. We know our world is changing, and in some ways, faster than ever before. So what do you think will be the next amazing adaptation that life comes up with to meet all these new challenges?